If all of the best offensive options for the Titans are off the board at pick number 11, what defensive prospect should the Titans focus in on? I'm going to answer that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, it's a pre-vacation mailbag edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. I'm going to be answering your guys' questions, and we are going to start with a banger about what the Titans would do if all the top offensive options were off the board at pick number 11. Before we get into that, I do want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content on all platforms all year round and always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed. Stay subscribed to the Locked On Titans podcast, where it's your team every day. I am your host, Tyler Rowland, nearly 25 years as a Tennessee Titans fanatic, a staff writer for Sports Illustrated over at alltitans.com, and a certified film junkie. I also am a man who is 12 hours away from being on a plane on my way to vacation. If you guys couldn't tell, went away from the standard, typical long sleeve or polo shirt, rocking a little beach attire. Baby, I am ready to head to the Caribbean. Got a few questions from you guys in that regard that we will get into, but I want to start with a question from Cobb, Montana, and he says, let's say Paris Johnson Jr., go Bucks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, go Bucks, and Skoronski are all gone by pick 11. Should we turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball? A prospect that's grown on me is Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. What are your thoughts on him? I like Lucas Van Ness. I think he's a strong guy who can be a better player in the NFL than he was in college. I think he could fit really, really well with what the Titans want to do on defense. For me, though, if we get into a position where the Titans don't have any of the top offensive prospects on the board, Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., let's say for argument's sake, Broderick Jones is also off the board, and you can't trade back, because I know what you guys do. So trade back, like the Titans can just choose to trade back. This isn't a draft where I think there will be a lot of people coming up for pick number 11. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Titans are going to have the option to trade back. So if all of the best offensive prospects are gone and the Titans have to go defense, they have to pick a player on the defensive side of the ball. For me, it's Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon. If not him, I like Devon Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois. I like Joey Porter Jr. as well. If you guys aren't catching my drift here, I would go with a cornerback. You can never have too many good cornerbacks. And I'm sorry, but Christian Fulton could be gone after the year. Roger McCreary, he's okay. Molden was hurt all last year. Caleb Farley, sadly, most likely a bust, not somebody who's going to help the Titans. Sean Murphy-Bunting was brought in, but I don't think that's any kind of long-term answer for the Titans at cornerback. If you can get a freak stud cornerback early in the draft, you got to consider doing that. And for me, Christian Gonzalez, with his size, his length, his athleticism, I mean, that would be a fantastic pick for me. I've said this all along. This is not a great draft class overall compared to previous years. Okay? There are only 14, 15, maybe prospects in the draft that are even worthy of a first-round grade. So, to me, if you're at pick number 11, the Titans' job in this draft is simply to get a first-round talent out of this draft. They're high enough to where they can do it, and taking a Christian Gonzalez, taking a Joey Porter Jr., taking a Devon Witherspoon, for me, would check that box. That would be them getting one of the top prospects in the draft. So there's an answer for you, Cobb. Alberto says, hey, Tyler, if the Titans fall in love with 3 of the top quarterback prospects. Should they try to pull the trigger now and trade with Arizona or wait until the draft? If they know, like with San Francisco, if they know that they would love to have one of 3 prospects, then you go up now. Because I think as you get closer to the draft, it's going to be more expensive because more teams will have more information on their quarterbacks. It gives teams more time to fall in love with a guy and be willing to make that move. So if you're the Titans and you really feel like there's 3 quarterback prospects that you would be enamored with no matter what, then you go up to Arizona and you make that trade now. So that's what I would do there, Alberto. As for Kenneth says, Texas Sports, one Titans question. Plenty of trade up talk. If I have a trade down question, who is a player later in round 1 the Titans could target if they move back? Moving down to me would require at least a 2024 first. So if you're doing a trade back, you're getting a first in next year's draft. I think that would be a great move if they could. I don't think that would be the case because of what I explained earlier about the draft class. But for me, if they trade down, I would like a guy like Darnell Wright from Tennessee. I would like one of the wide receivers at that point. Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison could make a ton of sense at that point. That's where I would be looking if the Titans were to execute a trade down. That Osiris Torrance on the offensive line or wide receiver, if you feel you can get better value and pick up a first-round pick for next year, then you got to do that. Dom says, can you answer this question? Are the Titans going to pay Jeffrey Simmons anytime soon? Well, Dom, obviously, I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I'm going to tell you there's no way that they let Jeffrey Simmons go. I think the reason they haven't gotten a deal done with Jeffrey Simmons yet is because Simmons camp is waiting to do a deal because you're going to see more interior defensive linemen in the coming weeks, in the coming months, get deals that are going to allow Jeffrey Simmons to say, hey, I want even higher than that. We saw something like that with Daron Payne. Jeffrey Simmons should just wait. Let a couple more interior defensive linemen sign their contract and then go and say, hey, I'm better than that player. I need more money. That's what his camp is doing right now. So do I think the deal gets done? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. But I could see why from Jeffrey Simmons' team's perspective, they want to wait and see some more deals take place before then. But we're going to move forward. I got so many. You guys sent in like 30 plus questions. I'm going to vacation soon, so I want to get through as many of them as I possibly can. But before we do, want to remind you guys, I may be going on vacation, but you aren't going to miss a single episode of the Locked On Titans podcast. I have shows ready for you guys tomorrow, on Friday, on Monday. So by the time I get back to do a show on Tuesday, you won't have missed a single day of Locked On Titans podcast. Go ahead and throw a thumbs up on the video right now. Continue to throw in those 5-star reviews. Thank you guys so much for the 5-star reviews. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. If you haven't done that yet, throw a thumbs up. Give me a 5-star review. I'm going on vacation for 6 days, and you're not going to miss a single podcast. That, my friends, is dedication. But with that in mind, we're going to move forward. Before we do, want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, the NFL season may be over, but it is the best time of year for basketball. The Final Four is coming up this weekend. The NBA playoffs are right around the corner. You want to make sure that you go to FanDuel because they are America's #1 sports book. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets, even if your first bet doesn't win. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to the point spread to which team's going to be cutting down the nets. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Titans fans, we are going to continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We just talked about some draft-related questions. Going to move into some more of your guys' questions on a mailbag edition. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am in vacation mode. So I appreciate all you guys sending in your questions here so we can have some fun on the show before I head off to the Caribbean. So excited. Can't wait. Anyways, moving forward, Logan Beatty says, do you think Malik has a chance to start for us in a year or two? If maybe in 2024, but I got to tell you, I think there is a better chance. I think there's a better chance that Malik Willis is off the Titans completely than there is that he's starting next season. Not this season coming up, but the season after. I think there's a much better chance that Malik is just not on the roster than him being a starter, unfortunately. Another Malik Willis question. John Snow says, where do you see Malik Willis in the future for the Titans? Do you believe he could be that franchise guy they've been looking for? And as I said, no, I don't. I don't think that he's a franchise guy. I think maybe Malik Willis could come in as a guy with athletic tools who manages the game and could be like a Jacoby Brissett, not in skill set, but just in the way that he's viewed. If Jacoby Brissett was the starting quarterback for your team, you're thinking, oh, we might be able to get some wins. He's not absolutely awful, blah, 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 blah. But you don't think he's the answer at quarterback going forward. So to me, that's pretty simple. I know that's not what people want to hear, but at the end of the day, that's what I think. And another Malik Willis question here from Tighten Up 69420. Why is everyone out on Malik Willis? We all knew he needed a redshirt year and he needed improvement, but can still improve a lot this offseason. Well, that's a valid question. That's a fair question for sure. It really is. But I think the reality is, let's do it this way. I like to quantify things because it's just easier to have discussions. So let's say to be a starting NFL quarterback, you need to be at a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Well, we knew that Malik Willis would take some time to eventually get there. But I thought that Malik Willis could come in and be a 4, be a 3 or a 4, and then you only got to get to, 5, 6, and then you're at the 7. What I saw from Malik Willis last year is he's a 1 or a 2 out of 10 right now. Okay? So the amount of development and the amount of improvement that Malik Willis would need to show for him to actually be the guy, going from a 2 all the way to a 7, man, that's just a long way to go. So I hope that makes sense. If he was a 3 or a 4 or 5, I could see him eventually getting to 7 and being a possible option for the Titans. But there's no way he's going from the 1 or 2 that he was all the way to a 7, and he's definitely not going to a 10. That's just too much development to ask for a guy who's in the NFL now. So that's why I think a lot of people have lost faith in Malik. Not because they're judging him off last year and saying, you should have been ready to play. But what we did see from Malik last year, it's just hard to fathom that he could improve so much that he could actually be an option for the Titans as a quarterback. That's where I'm at right now. So another quarterback question here from Slappy. Slappy says, all right, Tyler, give me your GOAT quarterback, but also your GOAT quarterback if football was played 7-on-7. Why are the answers different? Okay, so, that's a great question. I would say the GOAT quarterback is Tom Brady. If you say anything else, you're just a liar or you're being facetious on purpose. It's Tom Brady. There's no argument here. No argument at all. If football was played just 7-on-7 with no pass rush, then it's Patrick Mahomes. Or I would give you, turns out he's not a great guy, but Brett Favre. I think that the thing that made Brady so incredible is how quickly he would process the defense, how quickly he would get the ball out of his hands, and you just could never get to him. But if pass rush isn't an issue and it's a timing thing, then I would go with Pat Mahomes or Brett Favre because they just have the most unreal arm talent. And if you gave them a little more time and you gave them a little more space without the pass rush, they are just going to go nuts at all times. So that would be my answer there for you, Slappy. Moving away from the quarterbacks, Titans mock drafts and more says if Paris Johnson is off the board, do we still go Skoronski or is it JSN or another receiver? To me, I'm still focused on offensive line. If Paris Johnson Jr. isn't there and Peter Skoronski is there, I'm going with Peter Skoronski over a wide receiver. I don't like refs. Dylan Edelman says, in a fictional world where the Titans managed to trade for Lamar, what would they have to give up? 2 first-round picks and what else? And would trading for Lamar put them in cap jail and draft capital jail over the next couple of years? No. My answer to that second question is no. It wouldn't put them in cap jail. It wouldn't put them in draft capital jail. The Titans would be giving up first-round picks, but they still have all their other picks in the drafts. And then, if you look at the cap situation, the Titans are about to have an insane amount of cap space the next 2 seasons because they haven't hit on any draft picks over the last few years. So they don't have anybody to pay to keep around. So to me, the Titans could give up 2 first-round picks, 2024, 2025, pay Lamar Jackson what he wants, and it still wouldn't crush the team in any way from a team-building standpoint, in my opinion, which is why it is a viable move. Will it happen? Probably not, but that's why it has to at least be on the table for the Titans, okay? All right, so got a question from Cole Welch here. He says, if we roll out with Henry, Chig, Burks, Tannehill, an improved offensive line and the defense, we're not going to have the worst record in the NFL. So we won't get the USC kid. What are we looking at for quarterbacks afterwards? Well, to me, if you're not talking about Caleb Williams, then the first question is Drake May. I mean, that has to be the number one option outside of Caleb Williams. And some people think that Drake May is a better prospect than Caleb Williams. I know a guy like Quinn Ewers from Texas could be an option. Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. Spencer Rattler, of course, from South Carolina. Bo Nix. Bo Nix had a pretty good year for Oregon, and he will be eligible next year. So I think those are options that make sense. Either way, next year's class, whether it be at the top, whether it be the couple of projects or whatever, next year's class is way better than this year's class, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think those are some names that could make some sense. Kevin Davis says, 2-part question. What do you think about the Titans trading down a bit in the first to pick up another second and using those picks to take Jackson Smith and Jigba, Darnell Washington, and Hendon Hooker? I'm cool with everything except Hendon Hooker. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense for the Titans. They have a development quarterback in Malik Willis. You don't need Hendon Hooker, who by the time he's going to be able to play is going to be 26 years old. I'm sorry, but I'm just out on using. If the Titans want to take Hooker in the 4th round, then go ahead. But even then, I'm not going to be happy about it. Stop drafting mid-round quarterbacks. Over the last, 10 years, I talked to Locked On Saints, Ross Jackson. We talked about this just a few weeks ago. There is, out of all of the mid-round draft picks, there is a 20% chance, even lower, that you get a starting level quarterback. If you take a quarterback in the 1st round, it's like a 75% chance. Starting quarterbacks in the NFL are drafted in the 1st round. There may be a few outliers, but even Lamar Jackson was drafted in the 1st round in the last pick. Jalen Hurts was a 2nd round pick. So Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, but give me a break. That's San Francisco. Come on, man. Kyle Shanahan isn't a fair way to judge quarterbacks. So to me, I'm just take your quarterback in the 1st round if you want one. If not, don't waste your time. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, Darnell Washington, if the Titans wanted to trade down 3, 4, 5 spots and still get a top wide receiver, then I would stomach that. But dropping down any further than that, like I said, in this draft class, I just don't think it makes sense. But with that in mind, we're going to move forward, finish off with more of your guys' questions in just a moment. Before we do, want to thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen every day. As for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes podcast. It's free and available on all platforms, Monday through Friday as well. They're talking draft, free agency, how to build a successful roster in the NFL. Make sure that you check out the Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes podcast on whatever platform you do stream. Titans fans, we are going to cap off today's mailbag edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. By the time some of you guys are hearing this, I'm going to be on South Beach with a drink in my hand, probably a mimosa, maybe a strawberry Bellini, peach Bellini, something like that. Going to be enjoying vacation. It has been 6 years since I went on a vacation, since 2017. And boy, I am ready. But I'm also ready to finish off your guys' questions here. Question from Mark Warren. He says, which rookie will have the best sophomore season? I would predict Chig Okonkwo. Chig will be highlighted more in an offense without Hooper. Todd Downing failed to utilize him and played Jeff Swaim over him. Mark, I agree with you, but I am going to go with Treylon Burks. I think Burks has the potential to have a breakout season if he just stays healthy. He showed us that when he's on the field, he can be the Titans' #1 wide receiver, and he can make incredible plays down the field over top of people. I continue to run that catch over Jair Alexander in Green Bay, where he gave him the too small celebration afterwards. That is right there the Treylon Burks that I'm expecting to see. So Dom says, is Darnell Wright a potential pickup at 41? No. I personally don't think that Darnell Wright will be available at 41. I think that he's going to go in the late first round. Tim Owen says, do you think Malik should get a fair shot at starting? No. Malik needs to earn the opportunity to get a shot at starting. Nothing has to be fair about it. Fair is not a real thing in the real world. Zachary Story says, if the Titans have a worse record than 7-10 the next 2 seasons, is Vrabel's job not safe? Yeah, I would say if that happens the next 2 seasons in a row, this year and next year after that, then yeah, I think Mike Vrabel would be on the hot seat at that point. Jay the Sensei says, who do you think we're taking in the first 3 rounds? I mean, that's hard to do, man, without doing like a full mock draft. But I think the Titans get all offense in the first 3 rounds. Offensive line, tight end, wide receiver. I think that's where they got to go. Max Bishop says, if the Titans stay the course and go with Tannehill and go 8-9, what's the next step for this Titans team? I mean, take every draft pick that you have for the next decade and try to go up and get a quarterback, because there is nowhere to go but down after that, unless you get an elite quarterback to help you out. Okay, Vontae says, are there any set of results that can disappoint you this draft season, especially when our needs are offensive line and wide receiver? Would you be pessimistic if we went BPA at 11 and filled those needs later on? I'm not advocating, but thoughts. I mean, it depends on who they pass on. If you pass on Paris Johnson Jr. to draft defense, or you pass on Peter Skoronski to draft defense, I'm going to be a little annoyed. But at the end of the day, I think Christian Gonzalez is an incredible prospect. If like Will Anderson drops, it would be hard for me to be mad if the Titans got an absolute stud in the first round and then filled in later in the mid rounds, because like I said earlier, there are only so many first round talents in this draft. So the Titans just need to leave with one of them. I want it to be who I want it to be, but at the end of the day, just get one of the first round talents with your first round pick. That's all I ask for. Logan Stafford says, what if any Titans games do you want to attend this season? I think I'm going to go to the Bengals game again because I'm from Ohio and a lot of my friends who are Bengals fans will want to go. I typically try to get to the Indianapolis game because it's only 2 hours from me. So right now, those are the games that I'm pretty certain that I'll end up going to. But I should be able to go to a lot more games this year because I'll be able to be credentialed through Sports Illustrated. So that'll be really cool and honestly, a lifelong experience to go in and cover the game on the field. It'll be great. So we got a funny question here from Dooney the Pootie. He says, what Titans fan subgroup would you rather be trapped on a desert island, on a deserted island with? The Mariota is better than Tannehill crew, the Derrick Henry haters, Josh Dobbs stands circa December 2022, or Paul Kaharski's Twitter account after a collective tragedy. Man, Dooney, that is one of the funniest things I've ever been asked. For me, if I had to pick, I'll take the Derrick Henry haters. I'd rather be around those guys because Mariota is nowhere close to Ryan Tannehill. That's absurd. The Josh Dobbs stands were one of the most annoying things that I've dealt with since I've hosted the show. I cannot take the look at me nature of the reaction to the last one. So I'll go with the Derrick Henry haters because at the end of the day, I could see what point they have. Henry has a limited skill set. He's not an every down running back. You have to build your offense around him to get the most out of him. And I think for him to have true value, you got to have a great offensive line that allows him to get to the second level. So I would go with the Derrick Henry haters. I'll be chilling with them. Jay King says, what running back do you project will snag in the draft or a possible undrafted free agent option? For me, I like Sean Tucker from Syracuse. I like Tajee Spears from Tulane. Those are two guys who I think would make a ton of sense for the Titans. Super Wilbur says, do you think the Titans add a vet wide receiver to the room? I think they do, but I don't think it's anybody that's going to make any of us happy. Jordan Lowry says, if CJ Stroud drops to 3, do you see the Titans moving Jeffrey Simmons in the 11th pick to grab Stroud? I think they would do that. I do. And then Jordan says, second Batman movie, do you see them going with the Penguin as the main villain and then incorporating possibly the Joker or Doctor Strange in a third movie? What I want the Titans to do, or the Titans, what I want Matt Reeves to do with the second Batman movie is the Penguin is going to be the main villain, but I think they need to introduce another heavy-hitting villain. I would like to see Doctor Strange would be a great option because it could be done in a realistic way. And then Mr. Freeze, I think the city flooded at the end of the Batman. So I think they could use Mr. Freeze and all of the water in the city to create some really cool stuff. And the flooding the city, I think a way that they could set it up for real revenge is Mr. Freeze is working on a cure for his wife because of the flood that Batman allowed to happen and didn't stop. It flooded his lab, which is underground, and drowned his wife before he could fix her. And that is his motivation for wanting to kill Batman at all costs. So they're like the Riddler's motivation was to, show corruption. Mr. Freeze's pure motivation is revenge on Batman because of that. I think that, along with the side story of Penguin, creating more leverage and getting more of a hold on the city from a mob perspective, those two together would be great. And then Batman cleans up the city, gets the flood stuff out of there. And then in the third movie, the Joker breaks out of Arkham, releases a bunch of other villains. And the third movie is a free-for-all where Batman has to get everybody back into Arkham and then fight the Joker at the very end. I think that would be a great path forward. Call me Matt Reeves. Call me Warner Brothers. I'm ready. Some more non-football questions, I guess, here at the end. Logan says, will you have guests on the show or do something with fans' guests at some point? The most that I'm going to do is have the winner of the fantasy football show on, because I'll just tell you the honest truth. I am a fan at the end of the day, guys. So the perspective that I am bringing you guys every day is a fan's perspective. Having another fan on the show just to give their opinion, it doesn't really serve everybody else very much. So anyway, Keith Lester says, mailbag question. I've been standing on the table for 5 years about the Titans drafting a kicker. Just get it done. Will the Titans finally draft a kicker? I want Moody out of Michigan. I doubt it, but I would love Moody out of Michigan as well. Let me see here. Varney Vale says, what are your most anticipated movies coming out this year? Will you consider doing a listener's bachelor party for you and we go to a Titans home game? Probably not on that one, Varney, just because bachelor party activities, being around listeners of the show while I'm supposed to be professional, not a great mix. My most anticipated movies coming out this year, I can't wait for the Flash movie. Very excited for that. And I know this may be controversial right now, but I want to see Magazine Dreams with Jonathan Majors. He's a great actor. I know he's in trouble right now, but either way. Martin Kern says, do you think Caleb Williams will still wear 13 when he's taking snaps in Nashville? Yes. Yes, he will wear 13. Alan says, where in the Caribbean are you going? I'm going to the Bahamas, my man. Thank you for asking. Zach Clark says, hey, Tyler, happy belated birthday. Thank you. Hopefully you enjoy your time in the Caribbean. I will. I've been meaning to ask a non-football question for a long time. I noticed your custom jersey is number 8, so I wanted to know if that number is significant to you for any reason. So if you guys could see behind me, my Roland jersey number 8, funny story. So I got a couple of different jerseys for a couple of different Titans throughout my lifetime. I had a Chris Brown, number 29. I had a Tyrone Calico, number 87. I had a Vince Young, number 10. They never work out. They never work out. Ever. Okay? So basically, I got to a point where I'm done buying Titans jerseys. I want a Titans jersey with just my name on it that can stand the test of time. I don't actually wear jerseys anymore. So doing this with the jersey and hanging it up on my wall is, the best use of it. I will tell you this. I have a Kevin Byard jersey, and thank God that KB worked out. But I was on as soon as Byard was drafted, I knew that was my guy. So I just had faith in that one all along, and it was rewarded. But as for the number 8, so a lot of you guys know this. I am a huge Kobe Bryant fan. Kobe Bryant is my sports hero. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and quite frankly, Kobe Bryant was like a guiding light to me. His work ethic, his intensity, his attention to detail, all things that I try to bring into my everyday life. And I wore number 8 my whole life in youth sports, football, basketball, baseball. Always tried to pick number 8, always tried to get number 8 whenever I could. Softball, any team activities, wiffle ball that I played with my friends or anything like that. I'm going on a cruise for my brother's bachelor party, and we got custom shirts, and mine has a number 8 on it. I'm number 8. So it's my number. Shout out to Kobe. My dog's name is Kobe, if you guys didn't know that. So big Kobe fan. That's why I love number 8, but it's my number as well. So there's your answer there. And then David Yusuf, final question, says, you said you have a job outside the podcast. What do you do? Seems like a full-time gig with the quality content you're putting out. Yeah, I'm just insanely busy all the time from sun up to sun down. That's just a reality. I do logistics as a day job, but with me recently starting to write for Sports Illustrated, there's a good chance that by the time the season rolls around, I'm able to quit my regular job entirely and just focus on the podcast, writing about the Titans for Sports Illustrated, and truly just living my dream of covering sports for a living and paying all my bills and living my life as a guy who talks about sports for money. Been trying to do that since puberty when I realized I wasn't going to get as tall as everybody else. So, yeah, anyway, things are going good there, but I appreciate all your guys' questions. I'm out of here, baby. I'm catching a plane. I'm leaving. I'm headed to the ocean. Everybody take care. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this is Locked On Titans.